Good evening, and welcome back to Whispered History. Tonight we leave behind the dusty trails of the American frontier, the gold fields of California, and the vanished roads of ancient Rome. Instead, we travel much farther into the past, far beyond the memory of kings and emperors, far beyond the rise of Greece and Rome, far beyond the medieval castles of Europe. Tonight, we journey to one of the most extraordinary civilizations the world has ever known, ancient Egypt. Before we begin, take a moment to settle in comfortably. Dim the lights, adjust your pillow, perhaps pull a blanket a little closer. Allow the worries of the day to slowly drift away. This is your time to relax, your time to unwind, and your time to journey through history. If you enjoy these long-form historical sleep stories, be sure to subscribe to Whispered History and leave a like on the video. It helps the channel tremendously and allows me to continue creating relaxing journeys through the past. And now, with the modern world slowly fading into the distance, let us begin. Tonight's story starts more than 5,000 years ago, long before skyscrapers, long before nations, long before most of the cities we know today even existed. A great river flowed through northeastern Africa, a river unlike any other, a river that carried life through an otherwise unforgiving landscape, the Nile. Imagine standing beside its banks at dawn. The first rays of sunlight stretch across the water. The surface of the river glows gold beneath the rising sun. Birds circle above the reeds. The air is cool, peaceful, quiet. In the distance, small fishing boats drift silently across the water. The river moves steadily northward, as it has for countless generations. To the west lies the Sahara Desert. To the east, rugged hills and rocky wilderness. Yet here beside the Nile, life flourishes. Green plants grow in abundance. Fields stretch toward the horizon. Animals gather to drink. People build homes. Entire communities thrive. It is difficult to overstate the importance of this river. Without the Nile, ancient Egypt would never have existed. In many ways, the story of Egypt is the story of the Nile itself. Every year, something remarkable happened. Heavy rains far to the south caused the river to swell. The waters would rise, slowly at first, then dramatically. The Nile overflowed its banks and spread across the surrounding land. At first glance, this might seem like a disaster, but for the people who lived here, it was a blessing. When the floodwaters eventually retreated, they left behind rich, dark soil, perfect for farming, perfect for growing food, perfect for sustaining an entire civilization. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus would later call Egypt the gift of the Nile. It was a fitting description, because everything depended upon the river: the crops, the villages, the economy, even the beliefs of the people themselves. Imagine a farmer waking before sunrise nearly 5,000 years ago. The air is cool, the sky still dark. He steps outside his small mud brick home and looks across the fields. The floodwaters have recently receded. Fresh soil covers the land. The growing season is about to begin. Nearby, his family prepares for another day of work. There are no machines, no tractors, no modern tools. Everything depends upon human effort. And yet these people possess something invaluable: the Nile. Year after year, it provides what they need. Imagine walking through one of the earliest Egyptian villages. The homes are simple, built from mud bricks baked beneath the sun. Children play near the riverbank. Women grind grain into flour. Fishermen repair nets. Farmers prepare their fields. The village feels alive, busy but peaceful. Life here follows rhythms established by nature itself: the rising and falling of the river, the changing seasons, the movement of the sun across the sky. Over time, these villages begin to grow. Small communities become larger settlements become towns, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, The foundations of a great civilization begin to emerge. Imagine standing on a hill overlooking the Nile Valley. The river winds through the landscape like a ribbon of life. Green fields line its banks. Beyond them lies the desert, a vast sea of sand stretching endlessly in every direction. The contrast is remarkable. Life and desolation, abundance and emptiness. The Nile creates a narrow corridor where civilization can flourish, and flourish it does. As centuries pass, Egyptian society becomes increasingly organized. People learn how to manage irrigation, they improve farming techniques, they develop systems of trade. Communities begin cooperating with one another, leadership emerges. The seeds of a kingdom are being planted. Yet the world of early Egypt remains mysterious. There are no great pyramids yet, no towering temples, no mighty pharaohs seated upon golden thrones. Those chapters still lie in the future. For now, Egypt is a collection of growing communities connected by the river. But even in these early days, something special is taking shape. Imagine the Nile at sunset. The water reflects shades of gold and crimson. Palm trees sway gently in the evening breeze. Smoke rises from cooking fires. Families gather together after a long day. The sounds of conversation drift softly through the village. The atmosphere feels calm, comfortable, timeless. In many ways, these moments are not so different from our own. People care for their families. They work to provide food. They tell stories. They dream about the future. Though thousands of years separate us, their lives contain familiar emotions: hope, love, curiosity, ambition. These universal experiences help bridge the vast distance between the modern world and the ancient past. Imagine a young child growing up beside the Nile. He watches the river flood each year. He learns to plant crops. He listens to stories told by elders. He sees travelers arriving from distant communities. To him, this world feels permanent, unchanging, yet great transformations are already underway. Farther north and south along the river, other settlements are growing. Other leaders are gaining influence. Other communities are competing for power. The stage is being set for the rise of one of history's first great kingdoms. A kingdom that will endure for thousands of years. A kingdom whose monuments will still stand long after countless other civilizations have disappeared. Ancient Egypt. But before pyramids rise from the desert sands, before pharaohs command vast armies, before golden treasures fill hidden tombs, there is the river, always the river, flowing steadily through the heart of the land, providing life, providing opportunity, providing the foundation upon which everything else will be built. As darkness settles over the Nile Valley, the stars begin appearing overhead. The villagers retire to their homes. The fields grow quiet. The river continues its endless journey toward the sea. And somewhere in the darkness, the future of Egypt quietly waits. A future filled with kings, gods, monuments, mysteries, and wonders beyond imagination. But first, the people of the Nile must learn how to harness the gifts of their remarkable river, how they transformed fertile floodplains into one of the greatest civilizations in human history. And that is where our journey will continue next. As we continue our journey tonight, the stars slowly fade above the Nile Valley. A pale glow appears along the eastern horizon. The first light of dawn spreads across the water. The river awakens once again. Its surface shimmers softly beneath the rising sun. Birds call from the reeds. Fishing boats drift quietly from shore. And across the fertile floodplains of ancient Egypt, another day begins. For the people who lived here thousands of years ago, life followed a rhythm unlike any other. Everything depended upon the Nile, not just occasionally, not just during times of need, but every single day. The river provided food. The river provided transportation. The river provided water for crops. The river provided stability in a world that was often unpredictable. Without it, Egypt would have been little more than desert. With it, one of history's greatest civilizations became possible. Imagine standing beside the Nile during the height of the annual flood. The waters have risen far beyond their usual banks. Fields disappear beneath a vast shallow lake. Trees stand partially submerged. The landscape looks entirely different from only a few months earlier. At first glance, the flood might seem frightening, but the people of Egypt greet it with gratitude because they understand something important. The flood is not destruction. The flood is life. Every year, when the waters eventually retreat, they leave behind a layer of rich black soil. This soil is incredibly fertile, much richer than the sandy desert surrounding it. It is perfect for growing crops. And for thousands of years, this annual cycle sustains Egypt. Imagine a farmer walking across a freshly flooded field. The water has recently receded. The earth beneath his feet is dark and moist. The soil is ready. Soon seeds will be planted, soon crops will begin growing, and soon the harvest will provide food for an entire community. There is comfort in this cycle, a sense of reliability. The flood comes, the waters retreat, the crops grow, the harvest arrives. Year after year, generation after generation, the rhythm rarely changes. Imagine the farming villages that line the Nile. Most people in ancient Egypt are farmers. Their lives revolve around the seasons. They rise early, they work long hours, and much of their effort focuses on producing food. Wheat and barley are among the most important crops. These grains become bread, and bread becomes one of the foundations of Egyptian life. Nearly every meal includes it. Imagine a family gathering for breakfast thousands of years ago. Fresh bread sits on a simple table. Alongside it are vegetables, dates, and perhaps fish caught from the river. The meal is modest, but nourishing. The family discusses the day's work ahead. Children prepare to help in the fields. Parents organize tasks that must be completed before the heat of the afternoon arrives. Life is not luxurious, but it is stable. And stability is one of the greatest gifts the Nile provides. Imagine looking across the valley during planting season. Farmers move through the fields carrying baskets of seed. Oxen pull wooden plows through the soil. Workers repair irrigation channels. The landscape is filled with activity. Everyone understands the importance of their labor. A successful harvest means food. Food means survival. And survival allows communities to grow. Imagine the remarkable irrigation systems developed by the Egyptians. Rather than relying entirely on natural flooding, they learned to control water. Channels direct river water toward distant fields. Reservoirs store precious supplies. Simple engineering allows farmers to expand the amount of land they can cultivate. The result is greater harvests. Greater harvests support larger populations, and larger populations help create stronger communities. Slowly but steadily, Egyptian society becomes more organized. Imagine standing beside one of these irrigation canals. Water flows steadily through the channel. Workers maintain its banks. Nearby fields remain green even during dry periods. The canal may appear simple, yet it represents an important achievement. People are learning to shape their environment, to cooperate, to plan for the future. These skills will eventually help build monuments and cities, but their origins begin here, in the fields, along the river, among ordinary people. Imagine a village elder explaining the flood cycle to younger generations. He has witnessed the Nile rise and fall many times. He understands its patterns, its moods, its importance. Knowledge like this becomes valuable, passed from one generation to the next. The river teaches patience, observation, respect for nature. These lessons become deeply woven into Egyptian culture. Imagine traveling along the Nile by boat. The river serves as Egypt's highway. Long before roads connect distant settlements, the Nile provides a natural route for transportation. Boats carry grain, tools, livestock, building materials, and people. Communities that might otherwise remain isolated become connected through the river. Ideas travel, goods travel, knowledge travels. The Nile unites Egypt. Imagine a merchant steering his small vessel downstream. The journey is peaceful. The current assists his travel. Along the banks, villages appear at regular intervals. Farmers work in the fields. Children wave from shore. Palm trees sway gently in the breeze. The river links all these communities together, creating a shared world centered upon its waters. Imagine the importance of cooperation, managing floods, maintaining canals, harvesting crops. None of these tasks can be accomplished alone. Entire communities must work together. This cooperation strengthens social bonds. It encourages organization, and it helps lay the foundations for larger political structures. The future kingdom of Egypt begins not in royal palaces, but in villages where neighbors depend upon one another. Imagine a particularly successful harvest. The fields produce more grain than the community immediately needs. For the first time, surplus food becomes available. This changes everything. Some people can now focus on tasks other than farming. Craftsmen emerge, potters, builders, weavers. Specialists begin contributing to society in new ways. Civilization becomes increasingly complex, increasingly sophisticated, all because the Nile provides enough food to support them. Imagine a potter shaping clay beside the river. The clay comes directly from the fertile banks of the Nile. His hands move skillfully, creating vessels for storing grain, carrying water, preparing meals. Simple objects, perhaps, yet they represent a growing society, a society where people can develop skills beyond basic survival. Imagine evening returning to the Nile Valley. The day's work is complete. The fields grow quiet. Families gather outside their homes. Children listen to stories told by grandparents. The river reflects the colors of the setting sun. The atmosphere feels peaceful, secure. The Nile has provided once again. The crops are growing, the villages are thriving, and the future looks promising. Yet as Egypt grows wealthier and more organized, another transformation begins. Some communities become stronger than others. Some leaders gain influence. Competition develops along the river. Power begins to concentrate. And eventually these scattered settlements will unite beneath a single ruler. A ruler unlike any the world has seen before, the first Pharaoh. But that chapter still lies ahead. For now the Nile continues flowing through the heart of Egypt. Its waters nourish the land. Its floods sustain the people. And its steady rhythm guides a young civilization toward greatness. As darkness settles once more across the valley, the stars return overhead. The villages rest. The river flows. And somewhere beyond the horizon, the first kings of Egypt are beginning to rise. Their story awaits us in the next chapter. As we continue our journey tonight, the Nile flows quietly beneath the stars. The villages that line its banks are growing. The fields produce abundant harvests. Trade moves steadily along the river. Life has become more organized, more prosperous, more connected. Yet the Nile Valley is not yet a single kingdom. Instead, it is divided among many communities, many leaders, many competing interests. The Egypt we know from history, with its mighty pharaohs, towering monuments, and unified empire, does not yet exist, but the foundations are being laid, and soon everything will change. Imagine traveling along the Nile around 3200 BC. The river stretches endlessly before you. Villages dot the landscape. Some are small collections of homes. Others have grown into thriving towns. Each community has its own leaders, its own traditions, its own ambitions. And as populations increase, competition naturally follows. Control of fertile land becomes important, access to trade routes becomes valuable, influence becomes desirable. Slowly, larger regions begin to emerge. Over time, Egypt becomes divided into two major areas. To the south lies Upper Egypt. To the north lies Lower Egypt. The names may seem confusing at first. After all, Lower Egypt is actually farther north, but the Egyptians named these regions according to the flow of the Nile. The river flows from south to north. Therefore, the southern lands are considered Upper Egypt. The northern delta region is Lower Egypt. Imagine Upper Egypt. The Nile Valley here is relatively narrow. Steep cliffs rise on either side of the river. Settlements cluster close to the fertile floodplain. The landscape feels focused, concentrated. The people who live here become known for their strength and determination. Imagine Lower Egypt. The river spreads into a vast delta before reaching the Mediterranean Sea. Countless waterways branch across the landscape. The land is fertile and rich. Trade opportunities are abundant. Communities prosper. The region becomes an important center of commerce and agriculture. For generations, these two regions develop separately. Each possesses its own rulers, its own symbols, its own identity. Yet they share the same river, the same language, the same growing culture, and eventually someone will attempt to unite them. Imagine a young leader rising in Upper Egypt. History remembers him by several names. Some know him as Narmer, others know him as Menes. Even today, historians continue debating certain details. But one thing is clear: this ruler will become one of the most important figures in Egyptian history because he will help create the first unified Egyptian kingdom. Imagine Narmer standing beside the Nile. He watches boats move along the river. He sees fertile land stretching toward the horizon. He understands something many others do not. The future belongs to unity. A divided Egypt remains vulnerable. A united Egypt could become powerful, very powerful. Imagine years of diplomacy, conflict, negotiation, and ambition. The exact details have been lost to time. Ancient records survive only in fragments. But eventually, Narmer succeeds. Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt become one kingdom. For the first time in history, the Nile Valley is united beneath a single ruler. The significance of this moment cannot be overstated. It marks the birth of ancient Egypt as a nation. Imagine the celebrations that may have followed. Messengers carrying news along the river, communities recognizing a common ruler, symbols of unity appearing throughout the land. The idea of Egypt begins to take shape, not merely a collection of settlements, not merely neighboring regions, but a kingdom. One people, one ruler, one future. Imagine the famous Narmer Palette. Thousands of years later, archaeologists will discover this remarkable artifact. Carved into stone, it tells part of the story of Egypt's unification. The images show Narmer wearing the crowns of both Upper and Lower Egypt. The symbolism is powerful. Two lands, one king, one kingdom. Even after more than 5,000 years, the artifact still survives. A message from the dawn of civilization itself. Imagine the newly united kingdom. For the first time, resources can be coordinated on a larger scale. Trade becomes more organized. Agriculture becomes more efficient. Security improves. The government gains greater authority. Unity creates stability, and stability creates opportunity. The effects ripple throughout society. Imagine officials traveling along the Nile. They collect information, manage resources, help administer the growing kingdom. New systems of government begin emerging. Nothing is yet as elaborate as it will later become. But the foundations are there. Egypt is evolving from a collection of communities into a true state. Imagine the importance of symbols. Narmer adopts a double crown representing both regions: the white crown of Upper Egypt, the red crown of Lower Egypt. Together, they symbolize unity. Throughout history, symbols help people understand who they are. The Egyptians are no different. The double crown becomes a powerful reminder that the two lands now stand together. Imagine a farmer living during this period. His daily routine changes little. He still works the fields, still depends on the Nile, still cares for his family. Yet the world around him is changing. A larger kingdom is emerging. Trade reaches farther. Authority grows stronger. The future feels increasingly connected. Imagine craftsmen creating objects for the royal court: beautiful pottery, decorative carvings, jewelry, tools. As the kingdom becomes wealthier, artistic traditions flourish. The Egyptians develop a distinct style that will eventually become famous throughout the ancient world. Even in these early years, the seeds of that creativity are already visible. Imagine the first royal capital, a place where government officials gather, where decisions are made, where resources are managed. The city becomes a symbol of the kingdom itself. Historians believe Memphis, located near the boundary between Upper and Lower Egypt, becomes one of the earliest centers of power. Its location is ideal. It connects both regions. It stands at the heart of the newly unified land. Imagine walking through Memphis during its early days. The city is growing rapidly. Merchants arrive with goods. Officials oversee administration. Builders construct new structures. The atmosphere feels energetic, purposeful. The kingdom is young, but its ambitions are already enormous. Imagine how future generations will view Narmer. To them, he becomes more than a ruler. He becomes a founder, a king who brought order where there had been division, a leader who created something lasting, the beginning of a civilization that will endure for millennia. Few individuals in history can claim such an achievement. Imagine standing beside the Nile at sunset as the first dynasty begins. The river reflects golden light. Palm trees sway gently in the evening breeze. Boats move silently across the water. The kingdom is still young. Its greatest achievements remain in the future, yet the foundation has been laid. Egypt now exists, unified, organized, ready to grow. And grow it will, because over the coming centuries, Egypt's rulers will become increasingly ambitious. They will command vast resources. They will build extraordinary monuments, and they will seek something every ruler desires, a legacy that lasts forever. This desire will eventually give rise to one of humanity's most remarkable achievements, the pyramids. But before the Great Pyramid rises above the desert sands, another visionary must first appear, a man whose ideas will change architecture forever, a man named Imhotep. And it is with him that our journey continues next. As we continue our journey tonight, ancient Egypt is no longer a collection of villages scattered along the Nile. The kingdom has been united. The first dynasties have emerged. The authority of the Pharaoh grows stronger with each passing generation. Trade flourishes. Agriculture prospers. The river continues providing life to the land. And with prosperity comes ambition. The rulers of Egypt begin asking a question that powerful leaders have asked throughout history. How can they be remembered? How can their names survive long after they are gone? How can they leave behind something so extraordinary that future generations never forget them? For the early pharaohs of Egypt, the answer lies in stone. Imagine standing beside the Nile around 2700 BC. The kingdom feels increasingly organized. Government officials oversee agriculture. Merchants transport goods along the river. Craftsmen create beautiful objects for temples and royal courts. Egypt is entering a new era, an era of confidence, an era of innovation, an era that will eventually produce some of the most famous monuments in human history. But before the Great Pyramids rise above the desert sands, there is another story to tell, the story of a remarkable man, a man whose ideas would forever change architecture. His name is Imhotep. Imagine Imhotep walking through the royal court. He is not a king, he is not a warrior, yet his influence will become legendary. He serves Pharaoh Djoser, one of Egypt's most important early rulers. And unlike most people of his time, Imhotep possesses an extraordinary combination of talents. He is an architect, a scholar, an engineer, a priest, a thinker. In later centuries, people will remember him as one of the greatest minds in Egyptian history. Imagine Pharaoh Djoser considering his own legacy. Like other rulers, he wishes to prepare for the afterlife. Egyptian beliefs place enormous importance on life after death. The pharaoh's tomb must be secure, impressive, worthy of a king. For generations, Egyptian rulers have been buried in structures known as mastabas. These are large rectangular tombs built from mud bricks. They are impressive by the standards of the time. Yet Djoser desires something greater, something the world has never seen before. And so he turns to Imhotep. Imagine the two men discussing possibilities. Perhaps they walk through a construction site. Perhaps they examine earlier tombs. Perhaps they dream of creating something entirely new. Whatever the details, one thing becomes clear. Imhotep is about to attempt something revolutionary. Imagine a vast construction project beginning at Saqqara, just south of Memphis. Workers arrive from across the kingdom. Stone is quarried and transported. Plans are drawn. Measurements carefully calculated. The scale of the undertaking is unlike anything Egypt has attempted before. For the first time, builders will use large quantities of stone rather than mud brick. The project represents a bold experiment, an architectural leap into the unknown. Imagine the first mastaba taking shape, but then something unexpected happens. Rather than stopping there, Imhotep expands the design. A second layer is added, then another and another. The structure rises upward toward the sky. What began as a traditional tomb gradually transforms into something entirely different. A step pyramid, the first pyramid in history. Imagine standing before the completed monument. The sight would have been breathtaking. 6 enormous tiers rise above the surrounding landscape. Its white limestone surfaces gleam beneath the Egyptian sun. The structure dominates the horizon. Nothing like it has ever existed before. For the people of Egypt, it must have seemed almost miraculous. A mountain built by human hands. Imagine workers gazing up at the finished pyramid. Many may never have seen a building so large. The monument becomes a symbol of royal power, a demonstration of what a unified kingdom can achieve. The step pyramid is more than a tomb, it is a statement, a declaration that Egypt has entered a new age. Imagine the complex surrounding the pyramid. Walls stretch across the desert. Courtyards provide space for ceremonies. Temples stand nearby. The entire site forms an enormous sacred landscape. Every detail serves a purpose. Every structure reflects careful planning. Imhotep has not simply built a tomb. He has created an architectural masterpiece. Imagine how future generations respond. The step pyramid becomes a source of inspiration. Builders study it. Pharaohs admire it. Architects learn from it. The idea of constructing monumental stone pyramids begins spreading throughout Egypt. The possibilities seem endless. If one pyramid can be built, why not larger ones? Why not taller ones? Why not even more impressive monuments? Imagine the confidence this success creates. Egypt's rulers now understand something important. They possess the resources, the organization, and the expertise necessary to build on an unprecedented scale. The step pyramid proves what is possible, and soon pharaohs will dream even bigger. Imagine quarry workers extracting limestone from the earth. Teams of laborers transport massive stone blocks. Engineers experiment with new techniques. Knowledge spreads from one project to the next. Each generation learns from the achievements of those who came before. Egyptian architecture evolves rapidly. The lessons learned at Saqqara become the foundation for even greater projects. Imagine a young builder visiting the step pyramid for the first time. He studies its design, its proportions, its construction methods. Perhaps he cannot know it yet, but the knowledge he gains will help shape the next chapter of Egyptian history, a chapter that leads directly to the most famous monuments on earth, the pyramids of Giza. Imagine the Egyptian people themselves. Many live simple lives along the Nile. Farmers tend fields, fishermen cast nets, artisans create pottery and tools. Yet even ordinary people understand the significance of these monuments. The pyramids represent stability, power, order. The pharaoh serves as the link between humanity and the gods. His tomb reflects the strength of the kingdom itself. Imagine sunset at Saqqara. The step pyramid glows softly beneath the fading light. Long shadows stretch across the desert. The monuments stand silent, timeless, a triumph of imagination and determination. And though thousands of years will pass, it will remain standing, a testament to human ingenuity, a reminder of Egypt's extraordinary ambitions. But the step pyramid is only the beginning. The pharaohs who follow Djoser become increasingly determined to surpass one another. Each seeks a monument grander than the last. Each dreams of achieving immortality through architecture. And eventually one ruler will undertake a project so immense that it will become one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. A monument so extraordinary that people will still marvel at it more than 4,000 years later, the Great Pyramid. As darkness settles across the desert and the stars begin appearing overhead, the step pyramid stands quietly beneath the night sky. A revolutionary achievement, a bold beginning, and the first step toward one of humanity's greatest architectural adventures. That adventure awaits us in the next chapter. As we continue our journey tonight, the desert lies quiet beneath a sky filled with stars. The step pyramid of Djoser stands proudly at Saqqara. Its limestone walls glow softly beneath the moonlight. For the people of ancient Egypt, it is a marvel, the largest stone structure ever built, a monument unlike anything the world has seen before. Yet even as the pyramid stands completed, a new generation of rulers is already dreaming bigger, much bigger. The pharaohs of Egypt have discovered something powerful. Monuments can outlive kings. Stone can preserve memory. And if a ruler wishes to be remembered forever, there may be no better way than to build something so extraordinary that future generations can never ignore it. This desire will eventually lead to one of humanity's greatest achievements, the Great Pyramid of Giza. Imagine Egypt around 2600 BC. The kingdom is flourishing. The Nile continues its dependable cycle. Harvests are plentiful. Trade routes expand. The government grows increasingly sophisticated. The pharaoh commands vast resources. And among the rulers of this prosperous age is a king named Khufu. Today, more than 4,500 years later, his name remains famous. Not because of battles, not because of speeches, not because of laws, but because of a monument a monument so enormous that it continues to inspire wonder even in the modern world. Imagine Khufu standing on the edge of the Giza Plateau. Before him stretches a broad expanse of desert overlooking the Nile Valley. The location is ideal, visible from great distances, close to the capital, strong enough to support immense structures. Somewhere here, his eternal resting place will rise, and it will surpass everything that came before. Imagine architects studying the landscape, surveyors carefully measuring the ground, engineers planning the placement of foundations. Every detail matters, because the project ahead is unlike anything Egypt has attempted before. The step pyramid demonstrated what was possible. Now Khufu intends to redefine what is possible. Imagine the first stages of construction. Thousands of workers gather at Giza: stonecutters, laborers, engineers, carpenters, boatmen, craftsmen. The project becomes one of the largest organized efforts in ancient history. For generations, people would imagine armies of slaves building the pyramids. Yet modern archaeological discoveries tell a different story. Many of the workers were skilled laborers, respected members of society, men who received food, shelter, medical care, and wages for their work. Imagine their village near the construction site. Rows of homes stand beside workshops and storage buildings. Bakeries produce enormous quantities of bread. Breweries create beer for the workforce. Doctors treat injuries. Administrators track supplies. The entire operation functions like a carefully organized city. Thousands of people working toward a common goal. Imagine a quarry several miles away. Workers carefully cut massive limestone blocks from the earth. Each stone weighs several tons. The work requires patience, skill, and remarkable precision. Once cut, the blocks must be transported to the construction site, a task that is itself an extraordinary challenge. Imagine teams of laborers pulling stone blocks across specially prepared pathways. Water is poured onto the sand to reduce friction. Wooden sledges carry the enormous stones. The movement is slow but steady. Day after day, month after month, year after year, the pyramid gradually rises, one block at a time. Imagine standing at the construction site. The scale is almost impossible to comprehend. Workers move in every direction. Orders are shouted, tools strike stone, ramps stretch upward as the structure grows taller. The pyramid begins taking shape against the Egyptian sky. Each completed layer brings it closer to its final form. Imagine the architects overseeing the project. Their calculations must be exact. The sides must align precisely. The angles must remain consistent. The foundation must remain stable. Any major error could threaten the entire structure. The responsibility is enormous, yet somehow they succeed. With astonishing accuracy, even modern engineers continue to admire their achievement. Imagine the pyramid halfway completed. Already it dwarfs every nearby building. Travelers approaching from the Nile can see it from miles away. The monument dominates the landscape, a visible symbol of royal authority, a declaration of Egypt's power, a reminder that the Pharaoh commands resources on an almost unimaginable scale. Imagine the workers themselves. Many have spent years contributing to the project. Some may never see its completion, yet they understand its importance. Their labor helps create something that will endure long after they are gone. A structure designed to last forever. A structure built for eternity. Imagine the interior chambers taking shape. Hidden passages extend deep within the pyramid. Corridors connect carefully planned rooms. At the heart of the monument lies the king's chamber, a sacred space where Khufu will eventually rest. Every stone must be placed with extraordinary care, every measurement carefully calculated. The pyramid is not simply a giant pile of stone, it is a masterpiece of engineering. Imagine sunset over Giza. The partially completed pyramid glows beneath golden light. The Nile sparkles in the distance. Workers slowly return to their homes. The sounds of construction fade into evening quiet. For a moment, the monument stands almost alone against the horizon, silent, majestic, growing larger with every passing season. Imagine years becoming decades. The project continues. Generation after generation contributes to the effort. The pyramid rises higher. Its smooth limestone casing stones are added. The surfaces shine brilliantly beneath the sun. Some ancient visitors later described the monument as dazzling. A giant beacon visible across the landscape. Imagine the day construction finally ends. The Great Pyramid stands complete. Approximately 481 feet tall, the tallest human-made structure on Earth. A record it will hold for nearly 4,000 years. Its proportions are breathtaking, its precision remarkable, its scale almost unimaginable. The people gathered there must have felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. They had created something extraordinary, something the world had never seen before. Imagine standing before the completed pyramid as an ancient traveler. The monument seems almost impossible. The immense stones, the perfect geometry, the sheer size. Questions immediately arise. How was it built? How did they achieve such precision? Even today, these questions continue inspiring curiosity. The pyramid remains one of history's greatest mysteries. Imagine Khufu's final journey. Ceremonies fill the air with sacred chants. Priests performed rituals. Offerings are presented. The pharaoh enters the monument prepared for eternity. According to Egyptian belief, death is not an ending. It is a transition, a journey into another world, and the pyramid serves as a bridge between earthly life and eternal existence. Imagine centuries passing, kingdoms rise and fall, empires appear and disappear, languages change, religions evolve, yet the Great Pyramid remains, standing quietly beneath the desert sun, watching history unfold around it, a monument to ambition, a monument to skill, a monument to the remarkable civilization that built it. As darkness settles once more across the Giza Plateau, the stars appear overhead. The Great Pyramid casts a long shadow across the sands, silent, timeless, enduring. And while the pyramids may be the most famous symbols of ancient Egypt, they tell only part of the story, because beyond the monuments lived millions of ordinary people, farmers, craftsmen, merchants, children, families, people whose daily lives unfolded along the banks of the Nile. Their stories are quieter than those of kings, yet they are equally important. And it is among those ordinary lives that our journey continues next. As we continue our journey tonight, let us step away from the towering pyramids of Giza. Let us leave behind the grand monuments of pharaohs and the vast construction projects that have captured the world's imagination for thousands of years. Instead, let us visit another side of ancient Egypt, a quieter side, a more personal side, the world of ordinary people. Because while kings built pyramids and priests conducted sacred ceremonies, millions of Egyptians lived lives that were surprisingly familiar. They worked, they raised families, they shared meals, they celebrated holidays, they worried about the future, and they found moments of happiness along the banks of the Nile. Imagine waking before sunrise in a small Egyptian village around 2500 BC. The air is cool and still. A faint glow appears above the eastern horizon. The first birds begin to sing. Nearby, the Nile flows quietly through the darkness. Inside a modest mud brick home, a family slowly awakens. the day is about to begin. Imagine stepping outside. The village is already stirring. Smoke rises from cooking fires. Farmers prepare their tools. Children help with morning chores. The scent of fresh bread drifts through the air. Life follows a familiar rhythm, one repeated day after day, year after year, generation after generation. Imagine the home itself. Unlike the grand stone monuments built for kings, most Egyptian houses are made from mud bricks. These bricks are created using Nile mud mixed with straw and dried beneath the sun. The materials are simple, yet they work remarkably well. The thick walls help keep interiors cool during the intense heat of the day. Inside, the rooms are modest but comfortable. Families sleep on simple beds or woven mats. Storage jars hold grain and water. Furniture is limited but practical. The home is not luxurious, but it is functional, a place of shelter and family. Imagine a mother preparing breakfast. Grain harvested from nearby fields has been ground into flour. The flour becomes bread, one of the most important foods in ancient Egypt. Bread appears at nearly every meal. It sustains rich and poor alike. Alongside it may be onions, dates, figs, or vegetables grown near the river. Sometimes fish caught from the Nile. The meal is simple, yet nourishing. Imagine a farmer beginning his work. The Nile's annual flood has already receded. The fields are ready. With the help of oxen, he plows the soil. Seeds are scattered by hand. The work is physically demanding. The sun grows hotter as the morning progresses. Yet the farmer understands the importance of his labor. His harvest will feed not only his family, but also the wider community. Imagine the sounds of the countryside, the lowing of cattle, the calls of birds, the laughter of children, the rustle of reeds moving in the breeze. The rhythm of daily life feels peaceful, steady, predictable. The Nile provides a sense of stability that many other ancient societies lack. Imagine a group of children playing near the riverbank. Like children everywhere, they invent games, race one another, tell stories, explore the world around them. Some help their parents with chores. Others spend their free time swimming or playing with handmade toys. Archaeologists have even discovered dolls, balls, and miniature animals crafted for Egyptian children thousands of years ago. A reminder that childhood has always shared certain universal qualities. Imagine a busy village marketplace. Merchants display goods beneath simple shelters. Farmers bring baskets of vegetables. Fishermen offer their daily catch. Potters sell jars and bowls. Weavers display finely crafted cloth. The market serves not only as a place of trade, but also as a place of conversation. News spreads here. Friendships are maintained. Community life flourishes. Imagine the clothing worn by ordinary Egyptians. The hot climate encourages lightweight garments. Most people wear simple linen clothing made from flax plants grown along the Nile. The fabric is light, comfortable, well suited to the Egyptian sun. Jewelry is also common. Even ordinary people enjoy decorative necklaces, bracelets, and amulets when they can afford them. Beauty matters in ancient Egypt, just as it does today. Imagine a skilled craftsman at work, perhaps a carpenter shaping wood into furniture, or a potter spinning clay upon a wheel, or a jeweler creating delicate ornaments. Not everyone farms. As Egypt grows wealthier and more complex, specialized professions become increasingly important. These artisans contribute to the prosperity and culture of the kingdom. Their work fills homes, temples, and royal palaces alike. Imagine a fisherman launching his small boat onto the Nile. The river provides an abundance of fish. Using nets, hooks, and simple traps, he gathers food for his family and community. The Nile is more than a source of water. It is a source of life itself. Its gifts appear in nearly every aspect of Egyptian existence. Imagine the role of animals in daily life. Cattle are valuable. Goats and sheep provide food and materials. Donkeys carry goods across the landscape. Cats protect grain stores from mice. Many animals become deeply woven into Egyptian society. Some are even associated with gods and religious beliefs. The bond between humans and animals is an important part of everyday life. Imagine a village scribe. Unlike most people, he can read and write. This skill makes him highly respected. Writing is difficult to learn. Only a small percentage of Egyptians become literate. The scribe records harvests, keeps accounts, writes official documents. His work helps the kingdom function smoothly. In many ways, scribes become the administrators of civilization itself. Imagine a young boy training to become one. He spends long hours copying symbols onto papyrus, practicing endlessly, learning hundreds of hieroglyphs. The task is challenging, yet the rewards are significant. Education offers opportunities unavailable to most people. Imagine the arrival of evening. The intense heat of the day begins to fade. Farmers return from the fields, merchants close their stalls, families gather together, meals are shared, stories are told. The atmosphere softens, the pace slows, the village settles into a peaceful rhythm. Imagine sitting beside a family as darkness falls. An oil lamp flickers gently. Children listen as grandparents tell stories about gods, heroes, and the ancient past. The stars appear overhead. The Nile reflects the moonlight. For a moment, life feels wonderfully simple. And perhaps that is one reason ancient Egypt endured for so long. The civilization was not built solely upon kings and monuments. It was built upon millions of ordinary lives, people working together, families supporting one another, communities connected by the river. Imagine looking across the Nile Valley from a distance. Thousands of villages dot the landscape. Fields stretch toward the horizon. Boats move quietly along the water. The kingdom thrives because of these ordinary people. Their labor feeds the cities, supports the temples, funds the monuments. Without them, Egypt could never have become great. Imagine the night growing deeper. The village falls silent. The stars shine brilliantly above the desert. The Nile continues its endless journey northward, and throughout the kingdom, families sleep peacefully, preparing for another day. Yet while daily life provides stability, the Egyptians also believe they share their world with powerful divine forces. Gods who influence the river, the harvest, the sun, the stars, and even life itself. Their temples rise beside the Nile. Their stories are told across the kingdom, and their presence shapes nearly every aspect of Egyptian life. As the moonlight glimmers across the water, our journey now turns toward those ancient gods, the gods of Egypt, and the remarkable beliefs that helped guide one of history's greatest civilizations. As we continue our journey tonight, the villages of ancient Egypt grow quiet beneath the stars. The day's work is finished. The fields rest beneath the moonlight. Families gather inside their homes. The Nile flows silently through the darkness. Yet for the people of Egypt, the world is never truly empty. Invisible forces surround them. The river, the sky, the sun, the stars, the animals, even life and death themselves, all are connected to powerful gods. To understand ancient Egypt, we must understand these gods, because religion is not simply one part of Egyptian life. It touches everything. Every harvest, every journey, every birth, every death, the gods are woven into the fabric of daily existence. Imagine standing beside the Nile before sunrise. The world remains dark. The eastern horizon glows faintly. Then slowly the sun appears. Its golden light spreads across the river. Shadows retreat. Warmth returns to the land. To modern eyes, this may seem like an ordinary sunrise. To the ancient Egyptians, it is something far greater. It is a miracle repeated every day, a divine event, proof that the sun god has once again triumphed over darkness. Imagine the god Ra, one of the most important deities in Egyptian religion. Ra is the sun itself, the bringer of light, the source of life. According to Egyptian belief, he travels across the sky each day in a magnificent solar boat. As the sun rises, Ra begins his journey. As it moves overhead, he crosses the heavens, and as evening arrives, he descends into the western horizon. But the journey does not end there. Imagine the sun disappearing beneath the horizon at sunset. Darkness spreads across the land. For the Egyptians, this is not merely nightfall. It is the beginning of a dangerous voyage. Ra must travel through the underworld during the night. There he faces monsters, demons, and the great serpent Apophis, a creature of chaos and darkness. Every night Ra battles these forces. Every morning he emerges victorious. The sunrise becomes proof of his triumph, proof that order has defeated chaos once again. Imagine watching the dawn after believing such a story. The sunrise would feel different, more meaningful. A daily reminder that the universe remains stable and protected. Imagine entering an Egyptian temple dedicated to Ra. Massive stone columns rise overhead. The air is cool. Incense drifts through sacred halls. Priests move quietly between shrines. Sunlight filters through narrow openings in the stone. The atmosphere feels mysterious, almost otherworldly. Temples are not places where ordinary people gather for weekly worship, as in many modern religions. Instead, they are considered homes for the gods themselves, sacred spaces where priests care for divine statues and perform rituals on behalf of the entire kingdom. Imagine another beloved deity, Osiris, the god of the afterlife, the ruler of the dead, the symbol of resurrection and eternal life. His story becomes one of the most important myths in Egypt. According to legend, Osiris is once a wise and just king. He teaches people how to farm, how to live peacefully, how to build civilization. But his jealous brother Seth betrays him. Osiris is killed. His kingdom is thrown into turmoil. Yet the story does not end there. Imagine Isis, one of Egypt's most beloved goddesses. She is the wife of Osiris, a symbol of love, loyalty, wisdom, and protection. Determined to save her husband, Isis searches across Egypt for the pieces of Osiris's body. Using powerful magic, she restores him. Though Osiris cannot return permanently to the world of the living, he becomes ruler of the afterlife. His resurrection offers hope. If Osiris can overcome death, perhaps others can as well. This belief profoundly shapes Egyptian views about life and death. Imagine hearing this story beside a village fire thousands of years ago. The message is comforting. Death is not necessarily the end. There may be another journey waiting beyond it, a new existence, an eternal life. For many Egyptians, this belief provides reassurance during difficult times. Imagine the god Horus, the son of Isis and Osiris, often depicted with the head of a falcon. Horus becomes a symbol of kingship, protection, victory. The pharaoh himself is often associated with Horus. Just as Horus protects Egypt from chaos, the pharaoh protects the kingdom from earthly threats. Religion and government become deeply intertwined. The gods help legitimize royal authority. The pharaoh serves as a bridge between humanity and the divine. Imagine Seth, the god of storms, deserts, and disorder. Unlike purely evil figures found in some traditions, Seth is more complicated. He represents chaos, unpredictability, the dangerous forces that exist beyond civilization. Yet even chaos has a role within the Egyptian worldview. The balance between order and disorder helps shape the universe. Imagine another familiar figure, Anubis, the jackal-headed god associated with mummification and burial rituals. His image appears frequently in tombs and funerary art. Anubis guides souls through the afterlife, protecting them during their journey. For Egyptians, he provides comfort in the face of death, a trusted guardian for the road ahead. Imagine a family placing a small amulet around a child's neck. The amulet bears the image of a god, perhaps Horus, perhaps Isis, perhaps another protective deity. The object is believed to offer safety, good fortune, divine protection. Such amulets are common throughout Egypt, evidence of how closely religion touches everyday life. Imagine the vast number of gods worshipped across the kingdom. There are gods of the Nile, gods of fertility, gods of wisdom, gods of writing, gods of the moon, gods of craftsmanship. Nearly every aspect of life possesses a divine connection. The Egyptian universe is alive with spiritual presence. Imagine Thoth, the ibis-headed god of wisdom and writing. Scribes revere him. Scholars honor him. He is believed to have invented writing itself. Whenever a scribe carefully copies hieroglyphs onto papyrus, he does so under the symbolic protection of Thoth. Imagine Bastet, the cat goddess, associated with home, protection, and family. Cats become especially admired throughout Egypt. Their ability to protect grain stores from rodents makes them valuable companions. Over time, they acquire sacred significance as well. Imagine an Egyptian festival. The streets fill with music. People wear their finest clothing. Offerings are carried to temples. Priests conduct ceremonies. Communities celebrate together. Religion is not merely a private belief, it is a shared experience, a source of unity and identity. These festivals bring people together and strengthen their connection to both the gods and one another. Imagine standing beside the Nile during one of these celebrations. The river sparkles beneath the sun. Colorful banners flutter in the breeze. Music drifts across the water. Laughter fills the air. The atmosphere feels joyful, alive. A reminder that religion in ancient Egypt is not only about death and the afterlife, it is also about life, hope, community, and gratitude. Imagine the stars appearing once again above the desert. The temples grow quiet. The priests complete their final rituals of the day. The sacred statues rest within their sanctuaries. Across Egypt, people sleep peacefully, believing the gods continue watching over them. Yet among all Egyptian beliefs, none is more fascinating than their vision of what happens after death. The journey beyond this world, the weighing of the heart, the eternal kingdom of Osiris. These ideas inspire the creation of mummies, tombs, and hidden treasures that continue captivating us thousands of years later. And it is toward that mysterious afterlife that our journey now turns. As we continue our journey tonight, the sun slowly sinks beneath the western horizon. The temples grow quiet, the markets close, families gather inside their homes. Across the Nile Valley, thousands of oil lamps flicker softly in the evening darkness. The world of the living prepares for rest. Yet for the people of ancient Egypt, another world exists beyond the one they can see. A hidden world, a mysterious world, a world waiting beyond death itself. To the ancient Egyptians, death is not an ending. It is a journey, a passage from one existence to another. And preparing for that journey becomes one of the most important responsibilities in life. Imagine standing beside the Nile nearly 4,000 years ago. A funeral procession moves slowly toward a tomb. Family members walk quietly. Priests recite sacred prayers. Incense drifts through the warm desert air. The atmosphere is solemn, respectful, yet it is not entirely sad. because those gathered believe something remarkable. They believe the person they are honoring will continue to exist. The journey is changing, but it is not ending. Imagine the Egyptian view of the human soul. Unlike many modern beliefs, the Egyptians see the soul as having several different parts. One of the most important is called the Ka. The Ka is a person's life force, their spiritual essence. Another part is called the Ba, often depicted as a bird with a human head. The Ba can travel freely between the world of the living and the world of the dead. Together, these spiritual elements help form a complete person. And for them to survive after death, the body must be preserved. This belief leads to one of the most famous practices in history, mummification. Imagine entering a workshop where mummification is taking place. The room is quiet. The workers move carefully, respectfully. The process has been refined over centuries. Every step follows traditions passed down through generations. The goal is simple: preserve the body for eternity. Imagine the first stage. The body is washed and purified. Special oils and perfumes are applied. Prayers are spoken. The deceased is treated with dignity and care. For the Egyptians, this is not merely a practical procedure. It is a sacred act, a preparation for eternal life. Imagine the embalmers carefully removing internal organs. These organs are preserved separately in beautifully decorated containers known as canopic jars. Each jar is protected by a different divine guardian. The heart, however, is usually left inside the body because the heart holds special significance. The Egyptians believe it contains memory, character, identity. The heart will play an important role in the afterlife. Imagine the body being covered in natron, a naturally occurring salt found in Egypt. For weeks, the natron draws moisture from the body, slowly preserving it, preventing decay. The process requires patience, skill, and careful attention. Generations of embalmers perfect the technique. Their methods become so effective that some mummies survive for thousands of years. Imagine returning many weeks later. The body has been transformed, dry, preserved, ready for the next stage. Now comes the wrapping. Long strips of linen are carefully applied, layer after layer, each fold placed with precision. Amulets are inserted between the wrappings, protective symbols designed to aid the deceased on their journey. The work continues for days, sometimes weeks. The result is the familiar image we recognize today, the Egyptian mummy. Imagine the completed mummy resting inside an elaborately decorated coffin. Artists paint colorful scenes across its surface. Hieroglyphs cover the wood. Prayers and protective spells surround the deceased. Every image has meaning. Every symbol serves a purpose. The coffin itself becomes a guidebook for eternity. Imagine a wealthy noble preparing a tomb. The walls are covered with paintings, scenes from daily life, fields filled with crops, boats sailing the Nile, family members gathering together, animals grazing peacefully. These images are not merely decorations. The Egyptians believe they possess power. They help ensure the deceased enjoys these comforts forever in the next life. Imagine walking through one of these tombs. The walls glow with vivid colors. Even after thousands of years, many remain astonishingly bright. Artists carefully record every detail, every object, every activity. The tomb becomes a snapshot of life itself, a permanent record designed to accompany the deceased into eternity. Imagine a pharaoh's tomb. The scale is even more impressive. Treasures fill hidden chambers, jewelry crafted from gold and precious stones, furniture, weapons, clothing, food, everything thought necessary for the afterlife. The Egyptians believed these items will remain useful beyond death. Therefore, they spared no effort in preparing them. Imagine the famous Book of the Dead, not a single book but a collection of sacred texts, written on papyrus scrolls, placed within tombs. The texts contain instructions, prayers, and magical formulas. They help guide souls through the dangers of the afterlife, like a traveler carrying a map for an unfamiliar journey. The deceased carries knowledge for the road ahead. Imagine the soul entering the Hall of Judgment, one of the most important moments in Egyptian belief. Before the throne of Osiris stands a great scale. Upon one side rests the person's heart, upon the other rests the feather of Maat, the symbol of truth, justice, and order. Imagine Anubis overseeing the ceremony. Thoth stands nearby recording the results. The atmosphere is solemn, the judgment is fair. The heart reveals everything, every action, every choice, every deed committed during life. Imagine the scale balancing perfectly. The heart proves pure, the soul is worthy, the reward is extraordinary. Entrance into the field of reeds, the Egyptian paradise, a beautiful reflection of life along the Nile. Fields stretch endlessly. The harvests are abundant. Loved ones are reunited. Peace endures forever. For many Egyptians, this vision offers immense comfort, a promise that goodness will be rewarded. Imagine, however, a heart burdened by wrongdoing, a heart heavier than the feather. If the scale tips unfavorably, a terrifying creature awaits. Amit, part crocodile, part lion, part hippopotamus, the devourer. She consumes unworthy souls, preventing them from reaching eternal life. The possibility reinforces the importance of living honorably, of respecting order, of following the principles of Ma'at. Imagine how these beliefs influence daily life. The afterlife is never far from anyone's thoughts. People prepare for it throughout their lives. They commission tombs, purchase amulets, offer prayers, support temples. The future beyond death feels as real as tomorrow's sunrise. Imagine a family visiting the tomb of an ancestor. They leave offerings of food and drink. They speak prayers. They remember those who came before them. The relationship between the living and the dead remains strong. Love and memory continue beyond death. At least that is what many Egyptians believe. Imagine the Valley of the Kings centuries later, hidden among desert cliffs, secret tombs carved deep into the rock, treasures concealed from thieves, pharaohs resting beneath painted ceilings covered with stars. The tradition of preparing for eternity continues evolving, yet the core belief remains unchanged. Death is a journey, not an ending. Imagine the stars shining above the Nile once more. The temples are silent. The villages sleep peacefully. Across Egypt, countless tombs rest beneath the sands. Within them lie stories, dreams, prayers, and hopes for eternity. The Egyptians spend thousands of years preparing for the next world, yet they also accomplish extraordinary things in this one. Their kingdom grows wealthier. Their influence expands. Their civilization enters a new golden age, a time of prosperity, trade, art, and cultural achievement. As the moonlight glimmers across the river, our journey now moves forward into one of the most successful chapters in Egyptian history. The age historians would later call the Middle Kingdom, a golden age along the Nile. As we continue our journey tonight, the centuries drift by like the waters of the Nile itself. The great pyramids still stand beneath the desert sun. The temples remain active. The ancient gods continue receiving prayers and offerings. Yet Egypt, like every civilization, experiences periods of change, times of strength, times of uncertainty, times of renewal. And after years of political division and instability, a new chapter begins. A chapter historians would later call the Middle Kingdom, often remembered as one of the golden ages of ancient Egypt. Imagine standing beside the Nile around 2000 BC. The river remains as dependable as ever. Its annual floods nourish the land, its waters connect distant communities. Yet there is a renewed sense of order throughout the kingdom. The authority of the Pharaoh has been restored. The government functions effectively. Trade flourishes. Agriculture prospers. Egypt is once again united and confident. The future appears bright. Imagine farmers working the fertile floodplains. The fields stretch across the valley in every direction. Wheat ripens beneath the sun. Workers tend irrigation canals. Livestock graze peacefully nearby. The harvests are abundant. And abundant harvests create stability. For the Egyptians, prosperity always begins with the Nile. The river remains the heart of the kingdom. Imagine a merchant preparing for a long journey. His boat is loaded with goods, fine linen, pottery, tools, jewelry, grain. The Nile serves as a vast commercial highway connecting communities throughout Egypt. Trade becomes increasingly important during the Middle Kingdom, not only within Egypt itself, but far beyond its borders. Imagine Egyptian traders traveling south into Nubia, a land located along the Nile beyond Egypt's southern frontier. Nubia possesses valuable resources: gold, ivory, exotic animal skins, rare woods. The relationship between Egypt and Nubia is complex, sometimes peaceful, sometimes competitive. Yet, trade between the two regions becomes enormously important. Imagine a caravan crossing the desert. Donkeys carry valuable cargo beneath the blazing sun. The journey is difficult, the terrain unforgiving, yet the rewards are worth the effort. Trade routes extend farther and farther from the Nile Valley, bringing wealth into the kingdom and connecting Egypt to distant cultures. Imagine Egyptian ships sailing across the Red Sea. Their destination is a mysterious land known as Punt. Historians still debate its exact location. Perhaps modern Somalia, perhaps Eritrea, perhaps somewhere nearby. To the Egyptians, Punt is a place of wonder, a source of rare goods and exotic treasures. Expeditions return carrying incense, myrrh, ebony, gold, and stories of distant lands. Imagine the excitement when these ships arrive home. Crowds gather at the docks. Merchants inspect valuable cargo. Officials record the contents. The arrival of foreign goods brings a sense of adventure to Egyptian society. The world beyond the Nile begins to feel larger, more connected, more fascinating. Imagine a thriving Egyptian town during this period. The streets are busy. Craftsmen work in open workshops. Merchants negotiate prices. Children play near market stalls. The atmosphere feels prosperous, confident. The kingdom enjoys one of the most stable periods in its long history. Imagine an artisan creating a beautiful piece of jewelry. His tools are simple, yet his skill is extraordinary. Tiny beads, gold ornaments, precious stones. Each piece reflects generations of accumulated knowledge. The arts flourish during the Middle Kingdom. Sculpture, painting, literature, architecture, creativity thrives alongside prosperity. Imagine a scribe seated beneath the shade of a palm tree. A sheet of papyrus rests before him. His brush moves carefully across the surface. Unlike farmers and laborers, scribes occupy a special place within society. They preserve knowledge, record events, manage government affairs. Writing becomes increasingly important as Egypt grows more complex. The written word helps maintain order across a vast kingdom. Imagine one of the stories being copied by that scribe, a tale of adventure, a tale of wisdom, a tale passed down through generations. Many people are surprised to learn that ancient Egypt produced a rich literary tradition: stories, poetry, religious texts, philosophical reflections. Some survive to this day, offering glimpses into the thoughts and dreams of people who lived 4,000 years ago. Imagine a young student learning to become a scribe. The task is not easy. Hundreds of hieroglyphs must be memorized. Writing requires patience and discipline. Yet the rewards are significant. Education provides opportunities unavailable to most people. Many families dream of seeing their children enter the world of scribes and administration. Imagine the royal court. The pharaoh sits surrounded by advisors. Officials discuss agriculture, trade, construction projects, military matters. The government has become highly organized. Thousands of people work together to manage the kingdom. The scale of administration is impressive, especially considering the age of the civilization. Imagine the pharaoh viewed by his people. He is more than a king, more than a ruler. He is considered a divine figure, a living link between humanity and the gods. His responsibility is enormous. He must maintain order, protect the kingdom, ensure prosperity, and preserve harmony throughout the land. The concept of Mayat, the sacred principle of balance and order, remains central to Egyptian life. Imagine a temple ceremony during the Middle Kingdom. Priests move through stone halls illuminated by sunlight. Offerings are placed before sacred statues. Incense fills the air. Music echoes softly through the sanctuary. Religion continues to shape every aspect of society. The gods remain close, present in daily life, present in government, present in the hopes and fears of ordinary people. Imagine Egypt's borders expanding. Military campaigns secure trade routes. Fortresses are constructed along strategic frontiers. The kingdom grows stronger, more influential. Its power reaches beyond the Nile Valley. Neighboring peoples recognize Egypt as one of the great civilizations of the ancient world. Imagine travelers arriving from distant lands. They see prosperous towns, magnificent temples, well-maintained fields, a powerful government, a sophisticated culture. Egypt inspires admiration. Its reputation spreads far beyond its borders. For many outsiders, it appears wealthy, stable, almost timeless. Imagine sunset over the Nile during this golden age. The river glows with shades of orange and gold. Boats drift quietly across the water. Palm trees sway gently in the evening breeze. The kingdom seems peaceful, secure, at the height of its success, yet history rarely stands still. No civilization remains unchanged forever. Beyond Egypt's borders, new powers are emerging. New peoples are moving across the ancient world. New challenges are slowly approaching. The Middle Kingdom will not last forever. But before those challenges arrive, Egypt still has many remarkable stories left to tell. Stories of powerful rulers, ambitious queens, magnificent temples, and some of the most famous pharaohs in history. As darkness settles across the Nile Valley and the stars begin appearing overhead, the kingdom rests peacefully beneath the watchful eyes of its gods. Its golden age continues. Its future appears bright. And somewhere beyond the horizon, one of the most extraordinary rulers Egypt will ever know is preparing to take the throne. A ruler unlike any who came before. A woman who would become Pharaoh. Her name is Hatshepsut, and her remarkable story awaits us in the next chapter. As we continue our journey tonight, the Nile glimmers beneath the morning sun. The fields are green. The temples are busy. The markets are filled with merchants and travelers. Ancient Egypt remains one of the most powerful civilizations on earth. Its borders are secure. Its people are prosperous. Its monuments continue rising toward the heavens. Yet among the many pharaohs who ruled this ancient kingdom, one stands apart. Not because she conquered vast territories, not because she built the largest pyramid, but because she achieved something almost unimaginable in her time. She became Pharaoh, a woman ruling one of the most powerful kingdoms in the world. Her name was Hatshepsut, and her story is one of the most remarkable in Egyptian history. Imagine Egypt around 1500 BC. The kingdom has entered what historians call the New Kingdom. This is an age of strength and expansion. Egypt's armies are powerful. Its trade networks stretch across great distances. Its temples grow larger and more magnificent. The wealth of the kingdom is visible everywhere. And within the royal family, a young princess named Hatshepsut is growing up. Imagine her childhood within the royal court. She receives an education unavailable to most people. She learns about religion, government, diplomacy, the traditions of kingship. As the daughter of a pharaoh, she occupies an important position from birth. Yet few could have predicted the role she would eventually play. Imagine the expectations placed upon royal women in ancient Egypt. Queens possess influence. They hold respected positions. But pharaohs are almost always men. The image of kingship is deeply connected to male authority. The very idea of a woman ruling Egypt challenges centuries of tradition. And yet history often surprises us. Imagine years passing. The royal family changes. Unexpected events reshape the line of succession. Gradually, circumstances place Hatshepsut closer and closer to power. At first, she serves as regent for a young heir. This arrangement is not unusual. Someone must help govern until the child becomes old enough to rule. But something remarkable happens. Instead of remaining merely a regent, Hatshepsut assumes the full title of pharaoh. Imagine the reaction throughout Egypt. Some may have been surprised, others uncertain. Yet Hatshepsut understands that legitimacy is essential. If she wishes to rule successfully, she must convince the kingdom that her authority is rightful. And so she does something extraordinary. Imagine official statues being created. At first glance, they resemble traditional depictions of pharaohs. The royal headdress, the ceremonial beard, the symbols of kingship. Yet the ruler portrayed is Hatshepsut. She adopts many traditional visual elements associated with male pharaohs, not because she wishes to disguise herself, but because she wishes to emphasize the office itself. The message is clear. She is not merely a queen, she is pharaoh. Imagine walking through Egypt during her reign. The kingdom remains stable, orderly, prosperous. Rather than focusing primarily on warfare, Hatshepsut emphasizes trade, construction, and economic growth. Her rule becomes one of the most peaceful and successful periods in Egyptian history. Imagine one of her most famous achievements, an expedition to the mysterious land of Punt, the same distant region that had fascinated Egyptians for centuries. Hatshepsut organizes a large trading mission. Ships are prepared, crews assembled, supplies gathered. The expedition departs into unknown waters. Imagine the excitement surrounding the journey. Months pass. Then one day the ships return. Their cargo is astonishing. Gold, ebony, ivory, exotic animals, rare trees, precious incense. The expedition is a tremendous success. The wealth it brings strengthens Egypt and enhances Hatshepsut's reputation. Imagine the royal artists recording the event. Detailed carvings show ships sailing to Punt, foreign landscapes, strange animals, trade negotiations. These scenes still survive today, offering a glimpse into one of the ancient world's most fascinating voyages. Imagine Hatshepsut reviewing plans for another ambitious project. Construction. Like many pharaohs, she understands the importance of monuments. But her approach differs from that of the pyramid builders of earlier ages. Rather than constructing giant pyramids, she commissions magnificent temples. Among them stands one of the most beautiful structures in Egypt, her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari. Imagine approaching the temple for the first time. The building rises gracefully from the desert floor. Behind it tower dramatic cliffs of pale stone. Long terraces extend outward. Colonnades create elegant lines and shadows. The architecture feels harmonious, balanced, almost timeless. Even modern visitors often describe it as one of the most beautiful sights in Egypt. Imagine workers laboring on the project. Stone cutters shape blocks. Artists carve reliefs. Painters add vibrant colors. The temple gradually emerges from the landscape, a monument not only to Hatshepsut but also to Egyptian craftsmanship itself. Imagine standing upon one of the terraces at sunset. The cliffs glow golden in the fading light. The Nile Valley stretches into the distance. The atmosphere feels peaceful, majestic. The temple reflects the character of Hatshepsut's reign. Confident, prosperous, refined. Imagine life throughout Egypt during these years. Trade flourishes. Agriculture remains productive. Construction projects provide employment. The kingdom enjoys stability. Many Egyptians likely view the reign as a successful one, a time of prosperity and growth. Imagine foreign visitors arriving at Egyptian cities. They encounter magnificent temples, bustling markets, wealthy communities, a powerful government. Egypt appears strong and secure. Its influence extends throughout the ancient world. And at the center of this success stands a woman who has accomplished what few thought possible. Imagine Hatshepsut later in life. Years have passed since she first assumed power. Her authority is firmly established. Her monuments stand completed. Her trading expeditions have succeeded. The kingdom prospers. By nearly every measure, her reign has been a triumph. Yet history can be complicated. After her death, something curious occurs. Imagine future rulers deciding to remove many references to her reign. Statues are altered, names are erased from monuments, images are damaged. For centuries, her story becomes obscured, almost forgotten. Why this happened remains a subject of debate among historians. Perhaps political reasons, perhaps concerns about succession, perhaps something else entirely. The truth remains uncertain. Imagine the desert slowly covering parts of her legacy. The centuries pass, empires rise and fall. The memory of Hatshepsut fades, and yet not completely, because stone remembers, temples endure, carvings survive, and eventually archaeologists rediscover her story. Today she is recognized as one of the most successful pharaohs in Egyptian history, a ruler who governed wisely, expanded trade, commissioned magnificent architecture, and demonstrated that leadership can take many forms. Imagine the stars appearing above Deir el-Bahari. The temple stands silent beneath the night sky. The cliffs cast long shadows across the desert. The reign of Hatshepsut has come to an end, but Egypt's story continues. And soon another pharaoh will rise, a ruler whose name will become legendary throughout history, a king who will build colossal monuments, lead armies into battle, and rule for more than 60 years. His achievements will be so immense that later generations will call him simply Ramses the Great. As the moonlight settles over the temples and the Nile continues its eternal journey northward, our story now moves toward the age of Egypt's most famous pharaoh, an age of power, an age of grandeur, an age of Ramses. As we continue our journey tonight, the centuries pass gently along the banks of the Nile. The reign of Hatshepsut has come and gone. Her temples stand quietly beneath the desert sun. Her trading expeditions have enriched the kingdom. Her legacy remains carved into stone, yet Egypt's story is far from finished. In fact, the civilization is about to enter one of its most powerful and celebrated eras, an age of enormous temples, military triumphs, international diplomacy, and monumental building projects. At the center of it all stands a pharaoh, whose name would echo through history for more than 3,000 years, Ramses II, better known today as Ramses the Great. Imagine Egypt around 1279 BC. The new kingdom is at its height. The Nile continues its eternal cycle. Cities flourish. Trade routes stretch across the ancient world. The temples are rich with offerings. The kingdom is powerful. Yet maintaining such a vast empire requires strong leadership. And Ramses intends to provide exactly that. Imagine the young pharaoh ascending the throne. He is ambitious, confident, determined to leave a lasting mark upon history. Like many rulers before him, he understands the power of monuments. But unlike most, his ambitions seem almost limitless. Throughout his reign, he will commission so many statues, temples, and inscriptions that his image will become nearly impossible to avoid. Even thousands of years later, visitors to Egypt still encounter Ramses everywhere. Imagine walking through an Egyptian city during his reign. Construction projects are underway. Stone blocks are transported across the landscape. Craftsmen carve statues. Artists decorate temple walls. The kingdom feels alive with activity. Ramses wants future generations to remember him, and he intends to ensure they do. Imagine one of the greatest challenges facing Egypt during this era. To the north lies another powerful civilization, the Hittite Empire, centered in what is now modern Turkey. Like Egypt, the Hittites control valuable territory. Like Egypt, they possess strong armies. And like Egypt, they seek influence throughout the ancient Near East. Eventually, these two great powers collide. Imagine thousands of soldiers marching across dusty plains. Chariots roll across the landscape. Banners flutter in the wind. Messengers ride between commanders. The stage is set for one of the most famous battles of the ancient world, the Battle of Kadesh. Imagine Ramses leading his army northward. He is determined to secure Egyptian influence in the region. The campaign initially appears promising, but intelligence failures and unexpected movements by the Hittites create danger. Suddenly, Egyptian forces find themselves in a difficult position. The battle becomes chaotic, confusing, intense. Imagine clouds of dust rising beneath the wheels of hundreds of chariots. Warriors shout commands. Arrows fill the air. The outcome remains uncertain. For a moment, Egypt's fortunes hang in the balance. Ancient inscriptions later portray Ramses as a heroic figure, standing firm against overwhelming odds. Whether every detail is accurate remains debated by historians. Ancient rulers often presented events in the most favorable light possible. Yet there is little doubt that Ramses demonstrates determination and leadership during the battle. Imagine the aftermath. Neither side achieves a decisive victory. Both Egypt and the Hittites remain powerful. Eventually, rather than continuing endless warfare, the two civilizations choose another path: diplomacy. Imagine representatives from both kingdoms meeting to negotiate peace. Discussions continue, agreements are drafted, compromises are reached. The result becomes one of history's earliest known peace treaties, a remarkable achievement. Thousands of years before modern diplomacy, these ancient powers recognized the value of cooperation over conflict. Imagine the relief felt throughout the kingdom. The threat of major war diminishes. Trade can continue. Resources can be directed toward construction rather than endless campaigns. Peace creates opportunity, and Ramses uses that opportunity well. Imagine traveling through Egypt during the height of his reign. Everywhere you look, monuments rise from the landscape: temples, statues, obelisks, columns. The scale is extraordinary. No pharaoh commissions more building projects than Ramses the Great. His architectural legacy becomes one of the most impressive in Egyptian history. Imagine approaching one of his most famous creations, the temples of Abu Simbel, carved directly into a mountainside in southern Egypt. The sight is breathtaking. 4 colossal statues of Ramses sit before the entrance. Each stands more than 60 feet tall. Their faces gaze calmly across the landscape, projecting strength, authority, permanence. Imagine ancient travelers encountering Abu Simbel for the first time. The temple appears almost unreal. The massive figures seem to emerge from the living rock itself. The scale inspires awe, exactly as Ramses intended. The monument serves not only religious purposes but also political ones. It reminds everyone who sees it of Egypt's power. Imagine entering the temple. The interior chambers extend deep into the mountain. Walls are covered with carvings, scenes of battles, religious ceremonies, royal achievements. Sunlight reaches carefully designed locations during specific times of the year. The entire structure reflects extraordinary planning and craftsmanship. Even today, Abu Simbel remains one of the world's most impressive ancient monuments. Imagine workers constructing another of Ramses's many temples. Stonecutters shape enormous blocks. Artists carve intricate reliefs. Engineers oversee construction. The projects provide employment for thousands. Entire communities become involved. The pharaoh's vision transforms the landscape itself. Imagine ordinary Egyptians living during this prosperous era. The kingdom remains stable. The harvests are plentiful. Trade continues flowing along the Nile. While life is never easy, many people benefit from the relative peace and prosperity of Ramses's long reign. His rule lasts more than 60 years, an extraordinary length of time in the ancient world. Entire generations know no other pharaoh. Imagine a child born during the early years of Ramses's reign. By the time that child becomes an elder, Ramses still sits upon the throne. Such continuity creates stability. The king becomes a constant presence in Egyptian life, almost timeless. Imagine foreign visitors arriving in Egypt. They encounter magnificent temples, colossal statues, rich agricultural lands, a sophisticated government. The kingdom appears powerful and enduring. Few could imagine that centuries later many of these monuments would still stand, silent witnesses to a vanished world. Imagine Ramses late in life. He has ruled longer than almost anyone expected. His monuments cover the land. His achievements are celebrated. His reputation is secure. Yet even great kings cannot escape time. The years pass, the kingdom continues, and eventually, Ramses joins the long line of pharaohs who came before him. Imagine his funeral procession moving through the Nile Valley. Priests perform sacred rituals. Offerings are made, prayers are spoken. The ruler who once commanded armies and built colossal monuments now begins his own journey into eternity, a journey every Egyptian hopes to make. Imagine the centuries that follow. The temples remain, the statues remain, the stories remain. Ramses's name survives where countless others are forgotten. His monuments become part of the very identity of ancient Egypt, proof of what the civilization could achieve at its height. Imagine sunset over Abu Simbel. The giant statues glow beneath the fading light. The Nile flows quietly nearby. The desert stretches endlessly toward the horizon. The age of Ramses represents one of Egypt's greatest triumphs. Yet even during this golden era, daily life continues. Children attend school, scribes copy texts, doctors treat patients, inventors solve practical problems. The kingdom's success depends not only on kings and monuments, but also on knowledge, on learning, on innovation. And it is these hidden achievements of ordinary Egyptians that we will explore next. For beneath the grandeur of temples and pharaohs lies another remarkable story. The story of how ancient Egypt became one of the most advanced civilizations of the ancient world. As we continue our journey tonight, the great temples of Egypt stand quietly beneath the desert sun. The colossal statues of Ramses gaze across the landscape. The Nile flows steadily through fertile fields. The kingdom appears strong, stable, timeless. Yet beneath the grandeur of pharaohs and monuments lies another story, a quieter story, a story of knowledge, learning, innovation, and everyday ingenuity. Because ancient Egypt was more than pyramids and kings. It was also a civilization of skilled craftsmen, talented engineers, careful doctors, dedicated teachers, and highly educated scribes. Many of their achievements continue to surprise us even today. Imagine walking through an Egyptian town around 1250 BC. The streets are busy with daily activity. Merchants open their stalls. Farmers arrive with produce. Children hurry through the streets. Some are heading toward an opportunity unavailable to most people: school. Imagine entering a small educational center attached to a temple or government building. Inside, young students sit cross-legged on the floor. Sheets of papyrus rest before them. Their teacher moves carefully among them. Lessons have already begun. The atmosphere is quiet, focused, disciplined. Education in ancient Egypt is not available to everyone. Most children learn the skills needed for family occupations. Farmers teach farming. Craftsmen teach their trades. But a select group of students receive something different: training to become scribes. Imagine a young boy beginning his studies. His day is filled with practice. He copies symbols repeatedly, again and again. Ancient Egyptian writing is complex. Hundreds of hieroglyphs must be memorized. Patience is essential. Precision is expected. Mistakes are corrected. The work can be challenging, yet the rewards are considerable. Imagine the status of a successful scribe. Unlike laborers who work beneath the hot sun, scribes spend much of their time indoors. They record taxes, manage government records, prepare official documents, maintain temple accounts. Without scribes, the kingdom could not function. Their skills make them highly respected throughout society. Imagine one carefully writing on a sheet of papyrus. The papyrus itself comes from reeds growing along the Nile. The stalks are cut, pressed, dried, and transformed into one of the world's earliest writing materials. Long before paper exists, Egyptians used papyrus to record their knowledge. Thousands of texts survive because of this remarkable invention. Imagine entering a room filled with scrolls, government records, religious texts, medical instructions, poetry, stories, knowledge preserved across generations. The written word allows information to survive long after its creators are gone. And ancient Egypt becomes one of the first civilizations to fully appreciate that power. Imagine an Egyptian physician preparing to examine a patient. Many people assume ancient medicine was entirely based on superstition. Yet Egyptian doctors often display impressive knowledge. They observe symptoms carefully. They record treatments. They study injuries. Some surviving medical texts contain surprisingly detailed descriptions of illnesses and procedures. Imagine a doctor treating a broken arm. The injury is examined, the bone is carefully aligned, splints are applied, bandages secure the area. The treatment is not identical to modern medicine. Yet the basic principles are remarkably familiar: observation, care, experience. The Egyptians understand far more about the human body than many people realize. Imagine a medical scroll being copied by a scribe. The document contains instructions gathered over centuries, descriptions of wounds, recommendations for treatment, observations about disease. The knowledge is valuable. worth preserving, worth passing forward. And thanks to these records, historians today can better understand Egyptian medicine. Imagine an architect studying plans for a temple. Mathematics plays an important role throughout Egyptian society. Builders must calculate distances, measure angles, estimate quantities of stone. The construction of pyramids, temples, and monuments requires extraordinary precision. Without mathematics, such achievements would be impossible. Imagine surveyors working after the Nile flood recedes. The annual flooding often alters field boundaries. Someone must measure the land again, determine ownership, maintain records. These practical needs encourage the development of geometry and measurement techniques. Necessity drives innovation, just as it often does today. Imagine craftsmen creating beautiful furniture. Wood is relatively scarce in Egypt. Much must be imported. As a result, skilled carpenters learn to use it carefully. They construct chairs, tables, beds, storage chests. Many examples discovered in tombs reveal extraordinary craftsmanship. Some appear surprisingly elegant even by modern standards. Imagine a jeweler at work. Gold gleams beneath the light. Tiny tools shape intricate designs, necklaces, bracelets, amulets, rings. The attention to detail is remarkable. Egyptian artisans become masters of their craft. Their work is admired throughout the ancient world. Imagine a glassmaker experimenting with colored materials. The Egyptians become early innovators in decorative glass production. Brilliant blues, greens, and reds appear in ornaments and decorative objects. These vibrant colors add beauty to everyday life. Imagine a boatyard along the Nile. Shipbuilders carefully assemble wooden vessels. The river remains Egypt's primary transportation route. Boats carry people, food, building materials, trade goods. The design of these vessels improves over generations. Some are capable of surprisingly long journeys. Imagine sailors navigating the Nile. The current carries them north. The wind often helps them travel south. This natural advantage makes transportation remarkably efficient. The river becomes both highway and lifeline, connecting the kingdom from one end to the other. Imagine an Egyptian clockmaker. Long before mechanical clocks exist, Egyptians developed methods for measuring time. They used shadow clocks, water clocks, careful observations of the stars. Understanding time is important for agriculture, religion, government, and daily life. The heavens become a source of knowledge. Imagine priests observing the night sky. The stars move across the darkness with predictable patterns. Certain constellations signal seasonal changes. The appearance of Sirius, one of the brightest stars, helps predict the annual Nile flood. Astronomy becomes both practical and sacred. The sky itself serves as a guide. Imagine a temple workshop where artists decorate walls with colorful scenes. The paintings depict gods, kings, animals, harvests, daily activities. Their style remains remarkably consistent for centuries. This continuity helps create a strong cultural identity. The art itself becomes a language understood throughout the kingdom. Imagine a family gathering in the evening. Stories are told, lessons are shared. Children learn about the world from parents and grandparents. Knowledge does not exist only in schools or temples. It exists within homes, within communities, within traditions passed from one generation to the next. Imagine all the accumulated wisdom of ancient Egypt, thousands of years of observation, experimentation, learning, adaptation. The civilization does not become great through monuments alone. It becomes great because millions of people contribute knowledge over countless generations. Each discovery builds upon those that came before. Imagine walking through Egypt at the height of its power. The temples inspire awe. The monuments dominate the landscape. Yet behind every achievement stand ordinary individuals, teachers, doctors, architects, artisans, engineers, scribes. Their contributions may be less visible than the pyramids, but they are equally important. Imagine the sun setting over the Nile. The workshops grow quiet, the schools close for the evening, the scribes roll up their scrolls, the physicians return home. The stars begin appearing overhead, the kingdom rests, comforted by the knowledge accumulated across centuries. Yet no civilization remains at its peak forever. Beyond Egypt's borders, powerful forces are gathering. New kingdoms rise. Foreign armies expand. Trade routes shift. The ancient world is changing. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, Egypt's long period of dominance begins to face challenges. Challenges that will eventually alter the course of its history forever. As darkness settles across the Nile Valley, our journey now turns toward the beginning of Egypt's decline. A story of change, a story of resilience, and a reminder that even the greatest civilizations must someday confront the passage of time. As we continue our journey tonight, the sun sets slowly over the Nile Valley. The temples still stand proudly. The statues of Ramses still gaze across the desert. The fields continue producing abundant harvests. And for many people living in Egypt, life appears much as it always has. The kingdom remains impressive, powerful, ancient, yet beneath the surface changes are beginning. Subtle at first, almost impossible to notice. But history often moves this way. Great civilizations rarely collapse overnight. Instead, they change gradually, year by year, generation by generation. And so it is with ancient Egypt. Imagine standing beside the Nile around 1100 BC. The river continues its eternal journey northward. The villages remain active. The temples continue their ceremonies. Yet Egypt no longer dominates the ancient world quite as it once did. New powers are emerging beyond its borders. New kingdoms are rising, and the balance of power is slowly shifting. Imagine a map of the ancient world. To the east, powerful states compete for influence. Across the Mediterranean, new cultures are growing. Trade routes evolve. Political alliances change. The world beyond Egypt becomes increasingly dynamic. No civilization can remain isolated forever, even one protected by deserts and sustained by the Nile. Imagine the enormous cost of maintaining a vast empire. Armies must be supplied, temples supported, monuments maintained, government officials paid. For centuries, Egypt's wealth allows these responsibilities to be managed successfully. But over time, the burden grows heavier. Resources become strained. Local leaders gain influence. Central authority weakens, not dramatically, not immediately, but steadily. Imagine a pharaoh ascending the throne during this period. Unlike the great rulers of earlier ages, he inherits a more complicated world. The challenges are greater, the resources fewer, the solutions less obvious. He still wears the crown, still performs sacred rituals, still commands respect. Yet maintaining Egypt's former glory becomes increasingly difficult. Imagine distant provinces becoming harder to control. Messages take time to travel. Officials pursue their own interests. Regional power grows. The kingdom remains united in name, but cracks begin appearing beneath the surface, small at first, yet significant. Imagine the temples themselves. For centuries, they have accumulated enormous wealth, land, livestock, treasures, influence. Priests become powerful figures within society. In some cases, their authority rivals that of the pharaoh. The relationship between religious and royal power becomes increasingly complex. The balance that once seemed stable begins shifting. Imagine a farmer working the same fields his ancestors cultivated generations earlier. To him, many of these political changes may seem distant, The Nile still floods, the crops still grow, life continues. And yet even ordinary people feel the effects of larger events. Taxes may increase, trade may become less reliable, security may become less certain. The consequences of political change eventually reach everyone. Imagine foreign merchants arriving from distant lands. They bring new goods, new ideas, new influences. The ancient world is becoming increasingly interconnected. This creates opportunities, but also challenges. Competition grows. Egypt must adapt to a changing world. Imagine waves of migration occurring across the eastern Mediterranean. Entire populations move from one region to another. Cities rise and fall. Kingdoms struggle to maintain stability. Historians still debate many details of this period. Yet one thing is clear. The ancient world enters an age of uncertainty, and Egypt is not immune. Imagine a coastal settlement receiving alarming news. Foreign raiders have appeared. Communities elsewhere have been attacked. Trade routes disrupted. The situation creates anxiety throughout the region. Among the most mysterious groups involved are the so-called Sea Peoples. Their origins remain uncertain even today. They appear suddenly within historical records, moving across the Mediterranean, challenging established powers, altering the course of history. Imagine Egyptian soldiers preparing defenses along vulnerable frontiers. The kingdom still possesses strength. Its armies remain capable. Its people remain resilient. Yet defending the nation becomes increasingly demanding. Resources that once funded construction projects now support military efforts. The priorities of the kingdom begin to change. Imagine the great temples receiving fewer resources than before. Some projects remain unfinished. Certain monuments show signs of neglect. The difference is gradual, yet noticeable. The age of endless expansion is past. Now the focus shifts toward preservation, protection, survival. Imagine centuries continuing to pass. Dynasties rise and fall. Some rulers govern effectively, others less so. Periods of stability alternate with periods of fragmentation. The long continuity that once defined Egypt becomes increasingly difficult to maintain. And still, the Nile flows on, unchanged, steady, eternal. Imagine foreign powers looking toward Egypt with interest. Its fertile lands remain valuable. Its wealth remains attractive. Its strategic location remains important. As neighboring empires grow stronger, Egypt becomes a prize worth pursuing. Imagine the Assyrians, a formidable military power from Mesopotamia. Their armies expand across the Near East. Eventually, their influence reaches Egypt itself. For the first time in centuries, foreign rulers exert significant control over the ancient kingdom. The experience is unsettling. Egypt remains Egypt, yet its independence becomes increasingly fragile. Imagine ordinary Egyptians witnessing these changes. New rulers arrive, new customs appear, political authority shifts, yet daily life continues. Families still gather for meals, farmers still tend fields, children still play beside the Nile. Life persists even during times of uncertainty. Imagine the resilience of Egyptian culture. This may be one of its most remarkable qualities. Despite invasions, despite political changes, despite foreign influence, Egyptian traditions endure. The language survives, the religion survives, the artistic style survives. The civilization bends, but it does not break. Imagine a temple priest performing rituals much as his ancestors did centuries earlier. The world around him may be changing, yet the familiar prayers remain. The ancient gods are still honored. The sacred traditions continue. This continuity provides comfort during uncertain times. Imagine sunset over Karnak Temple. The towering columns cast long shadows across the stone courtyards. The air grows cooler. Birds circle overhead. The temple has witnessed generations of pharaohs, periods of greatness, periods of decline. It stands quietly through them all, a silent observer of history. Imagine looking back across the long story of Egypt so far. Thousands of years have passed. Pyramids have been built, empires have risen, great rulers have come and gone. The civilization has endured longer than almost any other in human history. Yet change is inevitable. And now another chapter approaches. One final age of greatness before the ancient world is transformed forever. An age centered around a remarkable city on the Mediterranean coast, a city of libraries, knowledge, trade, and cultural exchange, the city of Alexandria. And at the center of that story stands one of history's most famous women, a queen whose name remains legendary more than 2,000 years later, Cleopatra. As the stars appear above the Nile and the temples grow quiet once more, our journey now moves toward the final chapter of ancient Egypt's long and extraordinary history. The age of Cleopatra awaits. As we continue our journey tonight, more than 3,000 years have passed since the first Pharaoh united the lands of Upper and Lower Egypt. The pyramids still rise above the desert. The temples still stand beside the Nile. The ancient gods are still remembered. Yet the world around Egypt has changed dramatically. New empires have risen. New armies have crossed the ancient world. New ideas travel between distant lands. The age of the great pyramid builders is now far in the past, and ancient Egypt is approaching the final chapter of its long and extraordinary story. Imagine standing on the Mediterranean coast around 300 BC. Before you lies a city unlike any Egypt has ever known. Wide streets stretch toward the horizon. Ships crowd a magnificent harbor. Merchants speak dozens of languages. Scholars gather from across the known world. The city feels vibrant, cosmopolitan, alive with energy. This is Alexandria, and it will become one of the greatest cities of the ancient world. Imagine how Alexandria came to exist. A few decades earlier, a young conqueror named Alexander the Great swept across vast territories. His armies defeated powerful kingdoms. His influence spread from Greece to Egypt and beyond. When he arrived in Egypt, many welcomed him as a liberator. And during his brief visit, he chose a location on the Mediterranean coast for a new city. That city would bear his name, Alexandria. Imagine the city growing over the centuries. Its harbor becomes one of the busiest in the world. Its markets overflow with goods from distant lands. Its people come from Greece, Egypt, Phoenicia, Persia, and countless other regions. Cultures blend together. Ideas flow freely. Alexandria becomes a meeting place between civilizations. Imagine approaching the famous Lighthouse of Alexandria, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The structure towers above the harbor. Its light guides ships safely toward shore, visible for miles across the sea. Ancient travelers describe it with awe. For centuries, it stands as a symbol of human ingenuity and ambition. Imagine another famous institution within the city, the Library of Alexandria, perhaps the most legendary center of learning in the ancient world. Scholars gather here to study mathematics, astronomy, geography, medicine, philosophy. Thousands upon thousands of scrolls fill its shelves. Knowledge from many civilizations is collected and preserved. The library becomes a symbol of intellectual curiosity, a place where people seek to understand the world. Imagine walking through its halls. Scrolls line the walls. Students discuss ideas, teachers share discoveries. The atmosphere is filled with learning. For a moment, it feels as though all human knowledge has gathered beneath a single roof. Imagine Egypt during this era. The kingdom is no longer ruled by native Egyptian dynasties. Instead, descendants of Alexander's generals govern the land. These rulers are known as the Ptolemies. Though they adopt many Egyptian traditions, their origins are Greek. For centuries, they rule from Alexandria, combining Greek and Egyptian influences in fascinating ways. Imagine magnificent temples being built during this period. Traditional Egyptian architecture continues. Ancient religious practices endure. The old gods are still honored. Yet Greek ideas also flourish. The result is a unique blend of cultures unlike anything seen before. Imagine one member of the Ptolemaic dynasty standing apart from all others, a queen whose name will become famous throughout history, Cleopatra the Seventh, the last active ruler of ancient Egypt. Imagine Cleopatra growing up within the royal palace at Alexandria. Unlike many rulers, she receives an exceptional education. She studies languages, history, politics, diplomacy, philosophy. Ancient sources describe her as intelligent, charismatic, and highly capable. She understands that ruling Egypt requires more than royal blood. It requires skill, especially in a rapidly changing world. Imagine the challenges she inherits. The Roman Republic is becoming increasingly powerful. Its influence spreads across the Mediterranean. Its armies dominate vast territories. Its leaders shape the future of the ancient world. Egypt remains wealthy, important, strategic. But compared to Rome, it is increasingly vulnerable. Imagine Cleopatra standing on a palace balcony overlooking Alexandria's harbor. Ships arrive from every corner of the Mediterranean. Trade continues. The city remains magnificent. Yet she understands that Egypt's future depends upon careful diplomacy. The kingdom can no longer rely solely on its own strength. It must navigate a world increasingly dominated by Rome. Imagine one of the most famous meetings in history, Cleopatra and Julius Caesar. The Roman general arrives in Egypt during a period of political turmoil. Accounts of their first meeting have become legendary. Though historians debate some details, there is little doubt that the relationship between the two changes history. Through diplomacy and alliance, Cleopatra secures her position on the throne. Imagine Alexandria during this period. The city remains one of the world's greatest centers of culture and trade. Its harbor bustles with activity. Its temples attract visitors. Its scholars continue their work. Yet political tensions grow. The future remains uncertain. Imagine years later, Julius Caesar is gone. Rome enters a period of intense political conflict. Another powerful Roman leader emerges, Mark Antony. His relationship with Cleopatra becomes one of history's most famous romances. Together they attempt to preserve Egypt's independence. Together they face the growing power of Rome. Imagine grand celebrations in Alexandria, ships decorated with banners, lavish ceremonies, crowds gathering to witness royal appearances. For a time, it seems possible that Cleopatra and Antony may shape the future of the Mediterranean. Yet history moves in another direction. Imagine a young Roman leader named Octavian, the future Emperor Augustus, patient, determined, strategic. He recognizes Cleopatra and Antony as rivals. Eventually, conflict becomes unavoidable. The struggle culminates in one of the most famous naval battles of the ancient world, the Battle of Actium. Imagine fleets gathering beneath the Mediterranean sun. Warships fill the sea. Sails stretch across the horizon. The stakes are enormous: the future of Egypt, the future of Rome, the future of the ancient world itself. The battle ends in victory for Octavian. The consequences are profound. Imagine Cleopatra returning to Alexandria, the city she loves, the city she has fought to protect. The situation is now hopeless. Rome's victory is complete. The independence of Egypt is nearing its end. Imagine the final days of ancient Egypt. The temples still stand. The Nile still flows. The people continue their daily lives. Yet an era spanning more than 3,000 years is drawing to a close. One of humanity's greatest civilizations is about to become part of another empire. Imagine Cleopatra's final moments. The details remain uncertain. Ancient sources tell different versions of the story, yet all agree on one thing. With her death, a chapter of history ends. In 30 BC, Egypt becomes a province of the Roman Empire. The age of the Pharaohs is over. Imagine the silence that follows. Not literal silence. Life continues. The Nile continues. The cities continue. But something fundamental has changed. The long story that began with the first kings beside the river has reached its conclusion. The civilization that built pyramids, raised temples, created hieroglyphs, and endured for millennia has finally passed into history. Yet its story is far from forgotten, because even after the pharaohs disappear, Egypt continues to captivate the human imagination. Its monuments remain. Its mysteries endure. And centuries later, explorers and archaeologists will return to the sands in search of the lost world of the pharaohs. As night settles over Alexandria and the lighthouse shines across the Mediterranean Sea, our journey approaches its final chapter, a chapter of rediscovery, of hidden tombs, of buried treasures, and of the remarkable way ancient Egypt continues to live on in the modern world. And now, as our long journey through ancient Egypt draws to a close, let us slow our pace. The Nile still flows beneath the moonlight. The desert stretches endlessly toward the horizon. The stars shine above the ancient temples. And somewhere beneath the sands, the voices of the past still whisper their stories. For thousands of years, Egypt stood among the greatest civilizations on earth. Kings ruled from magnificent palaces. Priests performed sacred rituals. Farmers worked fertile fields along the Nile. Builders raised monuments that seemed impossible. Generations lived, dreamed, loved, and hoped beneath the same Egyptian sky. Yet time moves forward, always forward. And eventually, the world of the pharaohs faded into history. Imagine the centuries following Cleopatra's death. Roman rulers govern Egypt. The ancient temples remain active for a time. The old traditions survive, but gradually the world changes. Languages evolve, religions transform, new empires rise. The age of the pharaohs slips further and further into the past. Imagine the magnificent temples slowly becoming quieter. The ceremonies become less frequent. The great statues watch silently as generations pass. Sand begins gathering around ancient monuments. Wind shapes the landscape. The desert patiently reclaims what humanity once built. Imagine a traveler crossing Egypt during the Middle Ages. The pyramids still stand, but their builders are long forgotten. Legends replace facts. Stories replace memories. People gaze upon the giant monuments and wonder, who built these structures? How were they created? What secrets lie hidden inside? The answers become increasingly distant. Ancient Egypt begins transforming into a mystery. Imagine the Great Pyramid standing alone beneath a brilliant night sky. Empires have come and gone. Languages have disappeared. Entire civilizations have vanished. Yet the pyramid remains silent, patient, enduring. a message from another age, a reminder that human beings have always dreamed of leaving something behind. Imagine centuries passing. The sands continue shifting. Tombs disappear beneath the desert. Temples become buried. Entire cities vanish from sight. It seems possible that Egypt's story may eventually be forgotten altogether. But history has one final surprise. Because the civilization that spent thousands of years preserving memory is about to be remembered once again. Imagine the late 18th century. European travelers and scholars arrive in increasing numbers. They see the pyramids, the temples, the colossal statues. Curiosity awakens. People want answers. They want to understand the civilization hidden beneath the sands. And so begins one of history's greatest archaeological adventures. Imagine explorers traveling along the Nile, sketching monuments, recording inscriptions, studying ruins. Every discovery raises new questions. Every answer reveals another mystery. Ancient Egypt slowly begins emerging from the shadows of time. Imagine one of the most important discoveries of all, the Rosetta Stone, found in 1799. At first glance, it appears to be an ordinary stone slab covered in writing, yet it contains the key to unlocking an ancient language. For centuries, nobody can read Egyptian hieroglyphs. The symbols remain mysterious, beautiful but silent. Then scholars begin studying the Rosetta Stone, patiently, carefully, determined to understand. Imagine the excitement when the code is finally broken. Hieroglyphs begin speaking once more. Ancient texts become readable. Names return. Stories return. Voices lost for centuries are heard again. The pharaohs are no longer anonymous figures. They become real people. History comes alive. Imagine archaeologists uncovering buried temples. Workers carefully brush away sand that has rested undisturbed for thousands of years. Columns emerge. Statues emerge. Paintings emerge. Colors that have not seen sunlight since the days of the pharaohs appear once more. The past begins revealing itself, piece by piece. Imagine standing inside a newly discovered tomb. The air is still. The walls are covered with brilliant artwork. Objects remain exactly where ancient hands placed them. For a moment, it feels as though time itself has stopped. Imagine perhaps the most famous archaeological discovery of all, the tomb of Tutankhamun. In 1922, British archaeologist Howard Carter uncovers a doorway hidden beneath the sands of the Valley of the Kings, a doorway sealed for more than 3,000 years. The excitement is almost impossible to describe. Imagine Carter peering through a small opening into the darkness beyond. When asked what he can see, he famously replies, "Wonderful things." And indeed, there are wonderful things: golden treasures, jewelry, furniture, chariots, statues, objects untouched since the days of ancient Egypt. The discovery captures the imagination of the entire world. Imagine newspapers reporting the find, crowds gathering to hear the latest news, people everywhere becoming fascinated by Egypt. The ancient kingdom once again captures humanity's imagination, just as it had thousands of years earlier. Imagine modern visitors standing before the pyramids. Some arrive from nearby cities. Others travel across oceans. They come for the same reason: wonder. The pyramids still inspire it. The temples still inspire it. The story of ancient Egypt still inspires it. Imagine walking through Karnak at sunrise. The columns rise like a stone forest. Light filters through ancient halls. Birds circle overhead. The atmosphere feels timeless. The distance between past and present seems to disappear. For a moment, it is easy to imagine priests moving through the temple. Easy to imagine pharaohs giving orders. Easy to imagine the world as it once was. Imagine Standing beside the Nile one final time, the river flows exactly as it did when the first villages appeared along its banks, exactly as it did when Narmer united Egypt, when the pyramids were built, when Hatshepsut ruled, when Ramses commanded armies, when Cleopatra watched ships entering Alexandria's harbor. The river remains a constant witness to history. Imagine all the people we have met during this journey. Farmers planting crops beside the Nile, builders raising pyramids toward the sky, scribes copying sacred texts, priests performing rituals, merchants sailing distant waters, queens governing kingdoms, pharaohs pursuing immortality, millions of lives connected by a single river, millions of stories woven together into one remarkable civilization. And perhaps that is the true wonder of ancient Egypt. Not simply the pyramids, not simply the treasures, not simply the monuments, but the people, the generations who spent thousands of years creating a world unlike any other, a civilization that endured longer than almost any in history, a civilization whose achievements continue inspiring us today. As our journey now comes to an end, the stars shine brightly above the desert, the temples rest quietly beneath the moonlight, the Nile continues its eternal journey toward the sea, and the ancient kingdom sleeps peacefully beneath the sands. Thank you for joining me on this relaxing journey through the entire story of ancient Egypt, and thank you for spending part of your evening here with Whispered History. Wherever you may be listening tonight, I hope this story has brought you comfort, curiosity, and a deeper appreciation for one of humanity's greatest civilizations. Now the pharaohs have returned to their tombs, the temple fires have faded, the river sings softly in the darkness, and it is time to rest, sleep peacefully, dream gently, and let the timeless whispers of ancient Egypt carry you softly into the night. Good night.